It's time for the Michael Huddleston Show on HUDRadio.com.
I appreciate your input.
Hello and welcome to the show. 832-699-0110 is our phone number. Call us, leave us your thoughts, your comments on what you hear on the show. And if they are good enough that we deem that we would need to play them on the radio, then we will. And as we do not have the technology yet to have you call in, if your thoughts, your comments are good enough, then we may just schedule you a little slot on our radio show to talk about them. Today on the show, we have an interview with Kacal. He is running for Texas House of Representatives. He is a Republican, and he is running for District 12, and we will play you that audio here in just a minute. We just want to plug again our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/mhudradio. Go there and check it out. We have some new stuff posted up on there right now, and so we would love for you to stop on by. So let's get on to that audio, that pre-recorded conversation we had with Kacal, and here it is. All right, and joining us now on the phone will be Republican House candidates for District 12, and that is Kacal. Mr. Kacal, how are you doing today?
Michael, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
It's not a problem. It's always great to talk to Republican House candidates and anybody that's in the Texas legislature, because there seems to be a lot going on really at any one point in time in the state.
You know, we are blessed to live in such a wonderful state, and a state that has so much potential, and, you know, the country being in the shape it is, you know, there's a sense of hope coming out of Texas right now, and I'm so glad to live and raise my family here.
Well, awesome. And the first question I have for you today is, why are you running? Why not just let the democratic process unfold and just be a part of it like a lot of other people?
That's a great question. I ask myself all the time, and, you know, I love what I do for a living. My family and I ranch here in Brazos County, and, you know, it's a great opportunity for me to spend time with my family and watch my children grow, which is also drives me to run. The state and the country are headed in a direction that needs some common sense and some hard work ethic. And I want my children, your children, and our grandchildren to have the same or better opportunities than we had. And my time spent running for this office, eventually taking office, and proving that I can be a leader in Austin will solidify the opportunities for the next generation.
Well, very good. And you kind of started going into the first topic here, and that was talking about families and the growth and development of our families in the future. So I guess we'll start off with education reform and school vouchers. Now, I had an opportunity to listen to you talk along with your fellow candidates and opponents at College Station at the Hilton Hotel a couple weeks ago, and one thing that you were very adamant on was the issue of school vouchers, and you plainly said no school vouchers, period. So this kind of goes into the question that some of your proponents will ask you, and that question is, what is the biggest issue surrounding the school vouchers, and why do you oppose them?
Well, first of all, let's talk about vouchers. What would a voucher do? Voucher would give the opportunity for someone to send their kids to private school. I mean, you can look at it two or three different ways. You could claim that you're already spending that money and giving it to the state in your school taxes, and you'd be giving a refund, or you could argue that it would be, I argue that it's taking money away from education. Education is funded at, I believe, 55% of our budget. We need, teachers and school districts are looking for more money and more funds. We can't take funds away from them, because at this point in time, we cannot increase their budgets. We have to be cognizant of our spending, and we have to do a better job. When we send our kids to private school, that is a choice a family makes. Not every family participating in a private school education is wealthy. Some families make great sacrifices to send their kids to a private school for a particular reason, whether it's college preparatory or for the arts. That is a family's choice. We cannot deplete the state budget by taking money out of the system, a system that we can't put money back into. We need to spend that more wisely, and we shouldn't take it away.
We're talking with District 12 candidate Kacal. He is running for the Texas House of Representatives. Kyle, another big issue that is in Texas politics right now is the issue of border security. Again, I'll go back and reference one of your opponents that said that border security was a federal problem, not a state issue, and your stance on that is different.
No, I would agree. It is a failure of the federal government, or particularly our situation on the Texas border in the lower Rio Grande Valley. However, I mean, we have to deal with this. So we need our current DPS, the Border Patrol, which is a federal program, obviously, but the Border Patrol, the DPS, the local county sheriffs, deputies, the constables, and the local police force have to have a way to communicate, to deal with illegal immigration and all the dangers of the cartels and the violence that is occurring down there along our borders.
Would you be in support of taxpayer dollars going to, quote-unquote, beef up the arsenal on the border, such as what's already been done with drug money to buy gunboats along the Rio Grande?
There's no question we need to beef up the system to some degree, and hopefully we can do this wisely without throwing a bunch of money at it. Like I said, you know, I need to dive into it. I spent a week on the border between Brownsville and McAllen with the Texas Farm Bureau and Texas Cattle Rangers, Special Rangers, evaluating the fence, the obstacles we have, the lack of money we do not have to finish that fence. You know, we can argue whether the fence is effective or not. The bottom line, the fence has been put in place. The bad news, there are no gates, so there are gaps everywhere. There are also wildlife gaps for opportunity for the ocelot and the Texas tortoise or the desert tortoise to go back and forth. So there are many obstacles we face in closing this border. But I think with good communication between all the law enforcement agencies down there, we might have a stronger plan. To me, when I'm there, it seems like nobody knows who's in charge and what they can or can't do, and they're worried about stepping on each other's toes instead of having a unified effort.
So this also goes into the question of whose responsibility it really is this. And the federal government has said many times that there's not an issue on the border, whereas the state of Texas and Governor Perry have petitioned President Obama many times and said, yes, there is a problem. We need more funding. We need more troops. In your mind, should the state of Texas, should the legislature go ahead and say, we're going to do our part in protecting our chunk of border, or should we still try to stay and work with federal lawmakers to make that happen?
Well, we need to maintain the pressure on the federal government. It is their failure, but we also have a responsibility to our citizens to protect them. I mean, the state of Texas will take care of its own, but this is a failure of the federal security.
Again, we're talking with Kyle Kacal. He is the District 12 House of Representatives candidate. Kyle, another big issue that the state is facing is the budget, and this is one that is across the board something that needs to be addressed. Now, my question to you is not, do you favor cutting taxes? Because obviously we all favor cutting taxes. We all say we need to cut, but the question really is how deep of cuts would you support, and then specifically what needs to be cut the most? Michael,
the budget is going to be an enormous issue. We have to deal with federal mandated issues. For example, Medicaid, not to be confused with Medicare, which we had left $8 billion unfunded last session. You know, anywhere from $10 to $15 billion that we'll need to fund this next session in 2013. You know, spending cuts across the board. I would say at this point, nothing is safe. You know, I would propose that we do a deep analysis, look at what abuses are in the system, which programs, which agencies are effective, and which ones are not. I don't think we pick and choose. I think we have to evaluate every agency and every expenditure to make sure we are not being wasteful, the systems aren't being abused, and we have to cut that down to a bare bones to see where we are and what our actual budget and what numbers we really do have to work with.
Now, having been extremely familiar with politics in Dallas and the Houston area. A lot of people who live in those two areas say that specifically TxDOT's budget is out of control and that there's no way that one single governing body should have that much money reserved for them out of the budget. And your thoughts on that?
We move a lot of products through this state. We also drive considerably amount, whether it's driving our family to see other family, driving to and from work, to and from school, to and from extracurricular activities for our children. TxDOT has a huge responsibility. We have a responsibility to maintain safe and drivable highways and county roads for every constituent in this state. Once again, there's an opportunity here to evaluate where that money is spent. We need to build strong, safe roads. We do not need to build artistic appointments on bridges and things that are non-functional. Once again, we get back to the spending and looking at wasteful spending. Strong, structural, safe roads which are maintained for every constituent in this state is what we need to be concentrating on. We do not need to be concentrating on artistic endeavors within our road systems. That could be a very wasteful part of TxDOT that we need to look at, and I don't think that's being driven by the Department of Transportation.
Now, there's another issue here that hits closer to home and really affects your district that you're running for in specific, and that is the lack thereof of water in the Brazos Valley. Now, we've not had a good hurricane come through since Hurricane Ike in 2007, and although during the springtime and the wintertime here in the Brazos Valley, we've had an enormous amount of rain, it still has not made up for the lack of water for the agricultural community. What is your plan to address that issue as well?
Well, let's address lack of water. I would assume we're referring to the drought we're in currently. This drought, if you listen to climatologists over the past 3 to 5 years, they were calling for anywhere from a 6 to 8 to 10 year drought. I would argue that we're 2 to 3 years into this drought, and by no means are we out. We did experience a nice amount of rainfall late winter, and a little bit into the spring. But as we look at May 1, May 2 of this year, the rains have stopped. You can see that the winter grasses have played out, and we're not seeing a lot of rebound from our native forages that we count on in the world of agriculture. Now, if we move to our reservoirs and our aquifers, yes, without that rainfall over the last 2-3 years, and expecting less rainfall over the next 4 or 5 years, we have some recharge issues. I constantly go back to common sense and conservation on this water, whether it's a water plan for a local district or the statewide. It'd be very difficult to build a new reservoir anytime soon, given the amount of debt the state is carrying now. But we did have an opportunity during this drought, and we still may have here soon. I reference Waco and their foresight in raising the dam of Lake Waco 10 feet. So at the bottom of the 2011 drought, they had maintained the same amount of water that they had previous to when they raised the dam. So with some common sense, we hadn't built a reservoir since the 50s. Maybe we snuck one in the 70s. I can't recall. But we have an opportunity to, on the ranch, where I run my business, when the tanks get low, we dig them out and regain as much or more capacity as we had before for future rainfall. That is a economic plan, one that we can adapt easily to all the reservoirs in the state and increase capacity without a large expenditure at the taxpayer's demise.
Would you support mandated water restrictions at any point in time during the summer?
Given correct science and whether we can not provide water for the citizens of Texas, absolutely. It would be something we'd have to put on the table. We can talk about water being a commodity all day long, but at the end of the day, we all need water to survive. It is the key to survival in this state. Our abundance of water in our aquifers is the key to the economic development and the continued growth of this state that will bring Texas to the forefront in the future.
Well, that's all the time we got for today, Kyle. I appreciate you coming on. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I wish you good luck. Give us some information about when early voting starts and all that.
Absolutely. Michael, I am very appreciative of the time on the radio today. Early voting begins May 14th. And remember, that is important to vote early this year because the May 29th primary is a Tuesday after a major holiday. So if you're tired and you want to relax on that first day back to work, you might as well vote early, and that starts May 14th, and we will make sure you know where to vote. Find us at KyleKacal.com, and hopefully we'll direct you to the right place in your precinct.
Kyle, again, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, man.
Michael, thank you very much. Join us next time for more of The Michael Huddleston Show. Be sure and check out the Facebook page at www.facebook.com/mhudradio.